Hi, today we will discuss the preface of the book Black Power Politics of Liberation in America by Charles Hamilton and Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. My name is Sabah Fatma, and I'm a professor of philosophy at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. There are some books that transformed me, that helped me raise my consciousness. This book is definitely one of those books. It's in the top five, I would say. The first theme that I want to focus on, that's mentioned in the preface of the book, is For Black People by Black People. The authors state that this book, quote, is about Black people taking care of business, the business of and for Black people. The stakes are really very simple. If we fail to do this, we face continued subjection to a white society that has no intention of giving up willingly or easily its positions of priority and authority. If we succeed, we will exercise control over our lives politically, economically, and physically. End quote. So if you're not Black, you might be thinking, why do I need to read this book? One, it is good. In fact, it's imperative to know the history of our country, the United States of America. Two, the lessons are great for how to be a good ally in real circumstances. And three, you can learn invaluable and insightful lessons for your own liberation struggles. The quote also highlights a second theme that occurs throughout the book, which is the oppressor has no intention of giving up their privilege willingly for the sake of justice and equity. Let's break this quote down. So, first, why must these solutions for anti Black racism be by Black people? The authors write because, quote, white Americans can afford to speak softly, tread lightly, employ a soft sell, end quote. For Black people, it is literally their life and livelihood on the line. White people have no urgency or incentive to solve racism. The opposite. In fact, Black people who do not condemn racism are often the ones championed by white people as symbols of inclusion, as token recipients of prestige. So don't cater to white people's sentiments on how a libertarian movement should go because they have no urgency. And instead, we must be honest, clear, and forceful in our demands for justice and equity. Otherwise, change will never come. The third theme I want to focus on from the preface is non-ideal theory. Ture and Hamilton established right from the beginning of the book what we now call in the discipline of philosophy non-ideal theory. They don't call it that, but it is called that now. The authors state, quote, we start with the assumption that in order to get the right answers, one must pose the right questions. In order to find effective solutions, one must formulate the problem correctly. One must start from the premise rooted in truth and reality rather than myth. End quote. Meaning, stop philosophizing about justice in the abstract, imagining a hypothetical perfect state. Be situated in the imperfect world that we exist in. We have to come up with theory and solutions that speak to systemic injustice of the world that we live in and take into account how this world functions, how the world we live in functions. You cannot just say we want equal resources for everyone based on criteria X without acknowledging that we live in a racist world. Because equal distribution on paper often reinforces unequal outcomes in practice. For example, criteria could be that all school fundings comes from property taxes of that area. Seems like a neutral rule, but one that reinforces systemic racism of redlining and reinforces generational poverty. I'll leave it there for the preface. There's going to be a video on chapter 1, 2, and 3 of the book as well coming out soon. And I really want to emphasize that anyone who's interested in justice and politics or is a history buff in general, please read this book, Black Power. Wishing radical care for our communities and solidarity in our shared struggles.